never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Well, evening, folks. How are you? I'll try and find the right button to put myself up. There you go. Takes a little while sometimes. I hope you're having a good day. Thursday, well, nearly the end of the week, and we're pumping our way through it. I hope your day has had, good bits to it. Let's hope it does. I want to say good day to Margie Sedgman, who I spoke to this morning. She's still in hospital and recovering. Thank you to everybody who is putting forward prayers for her at the moment. She is, it's a slow recovery, let's just say that. But she's feeling a lot better. So fingers crossed, get that pin in her arm working right, and I'll get her into a rehab centre in the not too distant future, please. But thank you for your continued support for her and the others that we have on the prayer list. Not least of all is me, for the likes of Tony and Rachel and so many others who help me out from time to time. I can't thank you enough. Aussie Sue, first in the house tonight. I saw somebody else say, "Oh, I'm first in the room." You might be on the Rumble channel, first in that room, but you're not first in the room. Put it that way. Aussie Sue was. Andrew was in straight after her. Tony, g'day. I hope you're doing well, mate. Don't know Tony. Oh no, we'll talk about that a little later on. Also, Vitality Info. I like the way that sounds. Vitality Info. Dave O, haven't seen you around for a while, mate. I hope you are doing well. Yeah, of course they're coming to take our cash. Well, they're going to try, and it's up to us to make sure it doesn't. They're going to limit cash access, but it's up to us to try and broaden the scope of those limits, I think. But we shall see what happens. Spazza, good to have you in, brother. G'day, Daniel. Nice to have you. And What That, who has today gone and booked himself on our Freedom Cruise. Have you done it? I don't get told if anybody has signed up for the cruise unless you tell me you've done it. So if you have done it, please let me know. If we get people, well, there'll be me and there'll be What That and there'll be his son so far. I don't know who else is booked, but I do want to get some numbers. I was talking about it with someone a week ago, that I would like to get us all a shirt or something so that we can, look like a bit of a wanker group. It won't be a shirt. I'll find something nice, though, a bit of a present for us all that we can identify ourselves with. There's no need for us to walk around looking stupid, I don't think, but we'll figure something out. But I need to know. I need to know numbers. So if you are going and want to come on that cruise, I'll put the details of that up just while we're thinking about it. It's pretty easy to do. And What That today sent me a message that said, well, he likes to use cash, as most of us do. And he was able today to go and book for the cruise using cash through a travel agent. Now, all he had to do for that was take in these details. All right, for the Carnival Cruise, May 4 to 8, and our personal cruise manager, Annette, the lady or the man, whoever it was, at the travel agent, then rang the phone number, dialed the extension, got a hold of Annette, and it was all set up. Sweet, all done. So if you're one of those folks who wants to use cash rather than use your card to pay for that and other things, then please feel free. You are able to do it very happily. Head into a travel agent, and if that one doesn't do it, go to another one. It's that simple. Bugger them. So yes, they're coming to take our cash. Ho, 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 ho. What are we going to do about it? Well, in the description in this program, you'll find a link to a submission page. Now, that submission page is going to ask you to make a submission. Follow the submission guidelines. And what will you put in your submission? You put in your reasons for wanting access to and the freedom to use cash wherever you like. Now, at the moment, they're wording this in very interesting ways. The mandating cash acceptance exposure draft regulations is available for you to view. I will just copy that now and paste that in the chat so that if you want to, you can go and have a bit of a look at what I'm looking at here. Now, this is a feedback page to give feedback on the Competition and Consumer Industry Code's Cash Acceptance Regulations 2025. It creates a new mandatory industry code for grocery and fuel retailers that makes them accept cash with some exemptions. The draft regulations propose applying a mandate to in-person transactions under $500. They include an exemption for small businesses, meaning that they don't have to accept your cash under $500. The government will review the mandate after 3 years. What damage do you think will be done to our nation in 3 years? What control features do you think they will be able to employ over us in 3 years? A huge amount. A huge amount. Now, the Treasury is consulting on mandating the cash acceptance from December 19 through to February 14 of next year. On this page, you will be able to submit your submission. But please read the submission documents so that you know how to format your submission, so that it just doesn't get ignored because you didn't put the right heading on it. Okay, because that can happen. And they take every opportunity to ignore submissions, particularly when they're focused on such a shithouse mandate. But Chalmers, the Treasurer, has used some sneaky language. Jim Chalmers has quietly released his little cash mandate regulations last Friday and have given Australians less than 2 weeks to comment on it before the rules are finalised. Less than 2 weeks. So get onto it, folks. Get onto it now. Now, he's previously promised that cash acceptance would be compulsory for all essentials, including food, medicine, and fuel. But the actual draft regulations limit the mandate to supermarkets and petrol stations only, and only up to a limit of $500. What they are essentially saying is that, yes, you can use cash to buy essentials. And the way that they've worded it is simply that. Oh, you know, you'll still be able to use cash for essentials. So you'll be able to use it to buy your milk, your bread. Maybe not your smokes. Only essentials. That's what they're going to limit cash to, the essentials. So what happens to all the people like us who buy everything with cash, not just the essentials? How is that going to work? And more particularly, what do your local businesses think about it? What does small business think about it? Is cash handling such a problem? I remember the days where there was an envelope or a sack that all the cash went into, and the trusted member of staff took that sack to the bank and threw it through the hole in the wall at the bank. They didn't have to go in and sit down and count it all out or do anything like that. That was all done back at the office and submitted through that satchel through into a safe in the side of the bank, anytime, day or night. Of course, you've got to have people inside the bank who can count. And God knows the banks are trying to get less and less people inside their banks, especially the ones that deal with people. We don't need that. We need to employ computer programmers to stop the fucking hackers. And the hackers have been at it again today. They've managed to break into government systems again. And yet our moronic, foolish leaders seem to think, I'll be right. No, there'll be no problem with any of this. Lack of cash in society is going to be a monumental issue. It will be linked into your digital ID. So if you can't have cash and you've only got digital dollars and you get put on the naughty list, guess what? You'll have to go and find the 1 or 2 businesses that do accept cash, and you'll have to break open the old piggy banks so you can go and eat. We can't let this happen. You must put a submission in. It doesn't have to be 5 pages long, and that's the limit, 5 pages. But you need to put down why it is essential that you have access to cash at all times and are able to use it at all times. There should be no transaction where cash is not welcome. Now, I understand large transactions, buying a house or something like that, that you don't want to turn up with a briefcase full of money. I understand that. But for your everyday living and for normal, let's call them normal purchases, up to say even $10,000 or $20,000, or even, I know people who pay cash for $100,000 cars, but we're not probably in that bracket. But some of us can pay cash for $20,000 cars or $10,000 cars or $15,000, but you're not going to be able to do that. And why is that? Is it because the businesses accepting that money for whatever product or service they are selling are too lazy to take your cash to the bank? Do we actually think that's the issue? I've never known a business operator in my life who's reticent to put the cash they've made out of their business into the bank or somewhere safe. Personally, I wouldn't be putting it in the bank. I'd probably be turning it into gold and silver as fast as I possibly could. But I understand if you're running a business, you've got to pay your bills, you've got to have cash flow, all that kind of thing. Well, cash flow means cash, doesn't it? Not digital flow, not fake money flow, not digital controlled finance flow. But it's going to keep coming, folks. They are going to keep pounding on this. And it's a mandate. Remember, mandates are not compulsory. But unfortunately, as we discovered during the COVID-19 farce, there are a lot of less than intelligent people running businesses who just think that, no, the government said I've got to do it, I've got to do it. You don't got to do it at all. And if you know people in business who don't want to accept cash, please ask them why, because I honestly do not understand the reasoning for it. What is the problem of accepting cash and putting it in the bank? If that's where you want to put it. How hard is it to put that cash in the bank? Personally, from our side, I don't think it's hard at all. But the banks are making it increasingly harder for us to find them and open one. But then once you get inside, you are not dealing with staff who deal with customers anymore. I had the unfortunate experience a couple of weeks ago. I had to go into an ANZ bank. I went to walk over to where the tellers, what I thought was the tellers, and I was immediately cut off by this bloke who swanned across from his station, floor managing. Oh, sir, can I help you? I said, yeah, well, I want to take some cash out. And he said, oh, you can do that at the machine. I said, well, it's a couple of $1,000. We had to pay for something, and I don't know, I forget now what it was, but we were paying a couple of $1,000 for something, and thankfully we just managed to have it. And I went in to go and get it. And, oh, no, you can do that at a machine. I said, but it's over $1,000. Oh, well, you can do that too. Don't worry about that. Turns out at those machines in the banks, you can make a transaction, put your cash into those machines up to $50,000. And you can, with the appropriate ticks and recognitions on your card, I suppose, take that money out of them. The banks do not want you in their building anymore. They will say it's because of security. Oh, bank robbers. People don't rob banks anymore. Banks are unrobbable these days. Or they're probably not unrobbable, but they're pretty hard to escape from. So gone are the days of masked marauders carrying guns, running into banks, holding up tellers. That does not happen. There are much easier marks than going into a bank. So let's brush the security side aside. There are companies like Prosegar and Armaguard who are responsible for cash transfer. Armaguard have been complaining for ages that, we've got to take cash all over the place and we've got to go and pick it up, and they get paid very well for it. Now, maybe part of this is that they've, with all the other increased costs, Armaguard and Prosegar's costs have gone up too. Fuel, wages, all those sorts of things. So they take a bit of a slice out of whatever they take. Fair enough. because they provide a very secure service. I don't remember the last time I do kind of remember the last time that a fortified truck was robbed in Melbourne. I want to say Cranbourne a couple of years ago, maybe up to 5 years ago. But it is very few and far between that people go attacking these armoured vehicles or the guys inside them while they're transferring cash. And we've seen them. You've seen them in the supermarket walking around with trolley loads of, boxes, presumably either full of cash or emptied. They're not being attacked. They're not being robbed on a daily basis. That money isn't being stolen. Unless we've now just employing pussies to protect it, in which case getting out of their armoured truck probably scares them. And I'm not saying there aren't, dangerous things that could happen, but that's why they get to wear a pistol. That's why they're trained. That's why they are armed. And the first part of that operative training is, if you get robbed, give them the money. Don't pull your gun. Don't die for somebody else's money. It's not worth it. It's not your money. They're not going to pay for your funeral with it. So, where's the risk? Just give it to them if you get in that position. It's all insured. But no, the government has another reason. And that reason is quite simply digital control over you and I. If your money turns into ones and zeros, it can be turned off. Or at least your access to it can be turned off. Your account can be zeroed. And you won't get to talk with a human to try and rectify the problem. You'll get to talk with AI, as many people are experiencing today. And AI doesn't have empathy. AI doesn't look at extenuating circumstances. AI doesn't do anything other than what it is programmed to do. And if it says you owe this and you must pay it, or I'm going to stop access to your account, it will do it until you pay whatever it says you must pay, until you do whatever the government says you must do. Is that the way you want to live your life? Is that the way you want to bring up your children? Is that the way you want to see your grandchildren brought up? Being brainwashed into accepting this, because that's exactly what's happening with our young'uns now. How many of you go at Christmas time or birthdays and give the youngest members, the kids, 50-cent pieces for presents? I had an auntie who used to give us maybe $5 or $10 worth of 50-cent pieces every year for Christmas. And they'd be all wrapped up nicely, but they'd be 50-cent pieces. Now, we always used to say, how nice is that? And we'd have it spent before the end of Christmas. That was no problem. But it taught us all about cash. It taught us how to count it, what the difference was between the coins. And it gave us a little bit of independent spending power. What happens with your kids and digital cash? When your 8-year-old says, or 10-year-old says, I want to go to the pool and I want to, buy a drink and an ice cream at some stage during the day, does that mean that your 8-year-old now has to have a bank access card, has to have digital ID so that they can be ID'd and approved to get a drink and an ice cream from the pool canteen? How's that going to work? How many times do you put your hand in your pocket and give your kid $5, $10, $20 to do whatever it is they need to do? That'll be gone. And particularly for younger kids, as they're learning to appreciate the value of money, cash is an exceptionally valuable educational tool. But our young Australians are not going to see cash unless they see it in history books. And this government is hell-bent on putting it together. I believe any government, doesn't matter really what flavour, would be hell-bent on doing it, particularly in our two-party preferred system. the Labor, Green and the Liberal Nationals are all for it. It has to stop. So put that submission in. The link is in the description of the show. And I think the more submissions, the better. We need to put as many of them as possible in there. And by pure weight of numbers, maybe we will be able to usher in something of a change, I hope. Here's another idea that's been floated up, though. Would you use cash if it had a surcharge attached to it? It's been put out by Yahoo Finance. Would you use cash if they added a surcharge to it, like they do on your card now? Anytime you beep something now, there is a surcharge of whatever it is, 1 point whatever 15%. All right? Every time. I had to buy something yesterday, and the machine showed me it was $8 something that went by way of fees to use a card. $8. All I did was buy some steps. $8. How are they going to do that? How are they going to level that against you? When you get your cash out is how they're going to level it against you. You know that $2 to $5 you pay now using an ATM that isn't a flavour of your bank? That's how they'll do it. Same deal. Oh, you want to take out $100? Right. Well, you're going to pay a surcharge of 10% on that. We'll keep that. Take it straight out of your account. Thank you very much. There's your cash. Would you still use cash under those circumstances? What if that fee was higher than using your card and the fee that attracts? Because they will coerce us into doing this. Coercion is what the government does. If you haven't figured that out yet, we've got a long way to go. Speaking of coercions, digital ID, total surveillance, 100%. And there's a lot more of it coming our way. And why do they want to get all this in place? Well, because there's a new pandemic coming in the not too distant future. In 2022, Johns Hopkins, the highly regarded medical institution in America, undertook another one of those meetings where they tabletop and play out a pandemic. Now, they did this back in 2019 and under Obama. Actually, in 2017, I think they started it. And they played out a tabletop global pandemic crisis using a coronavirus that was striking people down all over the world. When Donald Trump was elected, Fauci told him in no uncertain terms, this is his first term, that there would be a pandemic in Trump's first term. Not that there could be, not that there might be, but that there would be. And of course there would, because they'd planned for it. They had played it out, tabletopped it out, war-gamed it with do-gooders from across the friggin' world doing it all over and explaining how they would fight it and fix it. And, well, we all know they fucked it, didn't we? They're doing it again. So Johns Hopkins, probably one of the leading medical, supposedly, institutions in the world, ran another tabletop pandemic scenario back in 2022. Now, this was done under the catastrophic contagion headline, and they play this out. They war game these scenarios out very realistically, to the point where there are fake media reports and a whole heap of other things, videos put together to engender that fear. All they're really doing is showing what the media will say, do, and how they can coerce people, how they can manipulate people using the media. And some of the people presenting in those videos are actually former journalists from the likes of CNN, MSNBC, and some of the lesser, less scrupulous versions. Now, this John Hopkins Centre tabletop pandemic playout involved a number of institutions and a number of countries. They did it in Belgium and somewhere out of the United States. Oh, and interesting to note too that that BlackRock and JP Morgan were heavily involved in funding it. So participants covered a range of areas. There were current and former health ministers from a variety of nations, senior public health servants from a number of nations, and representatives from, listen to this, Senegal, Rwanda, Nigeria, Angola, Liberia, Singapore, India, and Germany. And then one major attendee, Bill Gates, who stood up and explained just how they would have to fight the next pandemic. So this fictional pandemic that they were playing out was under the scenario that this will happen in the near future. And what did they call this whole thing? It has a name and it has a date for when it will be expected. Participants grappled with how to respond to an epidemic located in one part of the world and that was spread rapidly. Well, we figured out how to stop people traveling. Stop the friggin' planes. Stop the friggin' boats. That's pretty easy. They won't do that because they want it spread until such time as they don't want you to travel. But anyway, they're wargaming this next pandemic as a much greater threat to humanity with a much higher fatality rate than COVID-19, and it disproportionately affects children and young people. Participants were challenged to make urgent policy decisions under pressure with limited information and a great deal of uncertainty being fronted to them. Each problem had various choices, and there were considerations that needed to be taken into account: serious health, economic, and social ramifications of whatever decisions they took. Well, we know just how well they enjoy that sort of thing. And they did it so well during the COVID fast. Well, this time around, they've called the new pandemic, remember this, SEERS, S-E-E-R-S. And what's that all stand for? Severe Epidemic Enterovirus Respiratory Syndrome. And it's deadly. Now, I don't for a second believe that it's not deadly. I just don't believe the fact that it's materialized out of nowhere and is going to affect everywhere in the world. Cast your mind back to when they did this for COVID-19. Do you remember the lies that this whole COVID-19 disaster came out of? A wet market in Wuhan where somebody cuddled up close to a pangolin or whatever the hell that thing was. An animal was responsible. Animal had sex with something in the bush that gave it COVID. And then somehow that managed to cross species and get to us. Lies, proven lies now. Hindsight's a magnificent thing, and there is so much more available evidence about all the lies. Well, maybe not all, but a lot of the lies that we were told for COVID-19. This is the same plan. Exactly the same plan. We are now seeing the results of those who held their arm out for inspection and had it jabbed. Many of them, including my mother, God bless her, who will turn 90 in a little over a month. She had 2 and is still with us. She must have got 2 clean ones. She doesn't have too much wrong with her. She's an exceptionally healthy 90-year-old. She's got a sore shoulder at the moment, which stops her from playing golf, which she's been doing once a week for the last nearly 90, well, probably 80 years. So she managed to get through it, as so many did. But then there are so many more that haven't, so many more that have picked up illnesses. And as we talked about last night, one lady who is 31 years of age had nothing wrong with her before the jab, and then post-jab immediately went into stage 4 cancer. Immediately into stage 4 cancer. When does that happen? And there's more of it coming, a lot more of it. So what will happen next this comes along? And they're saying Sears 2025. I know people who were in China at the time that this virus was spread, and they were very smart about how they did it, because the people I knew were on a cruise ship. All right. And this was spread, I have no doubt, because a good friend of mine caught it. And they didn't know it was COVID. They didn't know it was that until they got home and were tested and showed that they had it. But they caught that on a boat that went through China and then round past Russia, over the Bering Sea, round past Alaska, and down to Los Angeles, where everybody disembarked and got off and went their separate ways. And there were so many people on that ship that were sick, on that cruise ship, with this virus. It became a target for spreading, a very easy way to get it sent around the world. They did the same with putting people on planes with the infection. No problem at all. And this information is coming out now. It's in part why there are so many threats against all sorts of different institutions who are every day playing out more truth, more of the things we've been telling you for years, and showing the real evidence of it, which is great. I want to talk about digital ID. I sort of should have kept going on this before. Darren Bergwerf has organised an event coming up at the Shrine in Melbourne on the 11th of the 11th. Now, we are going to have a chat with Darren about that event tomorrow night. I would urge you, if you are in Melbourne, please come along to that event. It's not just the Remembrance Day that you can be part of. There is a bit more that you can be part of with that too, and we would certainly enjoy having you be involved with that. I would love to be down there for it. Never know, might get there yet. We shall see. Hillary Clinton is back in the news. She's moaning and carrying on. I'm not sure how many people actually give a shit anymore, but this time round, she's complaining about what's going on at the White House. For those people who are unaware, Donald Trump is sick to death of the lack of facilities at the White House when it comes to hosting state dinners. Currently, if they are hosting a state dinner for a international dignitary, they have to put up some sort of marquee on the South Lawn, and there's weeks involved in doing that, and then another week or two involved in pulling it all down. It's a very messy thing. Anyway, Trump hates it, and that's why he usually holds those sorts of balls at his house in Florida at Mar-a-Lago, because it has a huge ballroom and it is grand. Trump has been all around the place saying how grand he's been accepted into many places, very grand receptions, and America doesn't have one. So he's decided they're going to have one. He's going to attach a ballroom to the White House. That means that they need to do a few renovations. What you're seeing there is an excavator digging holes in the East Wing. The East Wing of the White House is the oldest portion of the White House by a long way. It also, being the oldest, would also have access to some of the deepest tunnels, being the oldest. Part of what Trump is doing is saying, well, it's all old, it's rickety, and we're going to make it all look better. So they're going to join the old East Wing to this new ballroom, which will be capable of holding 1,000 people or more. The American people aren't paying for this. Donald Trump is paying for this, and other people who are putting money in. I'm not sure if that would involve Elon Musk or anybody else, but Trump doesn't need a huge amount of help because he's using the money that he's won out of defamation cases that he has taken out against various government officials and lawyers and people in private industry, and he has won them. One of the biggest payouts is $350 million. Now, that money will go straight to paying for all of this. Do you really think Trump's just putting up a ballroom because he wants to have a nice place to go and eat and dance and carry on? No. I think what they're doing is closing down the tunnel systems. I think what they're doing is removing evidence of what happened, and they usually do this with sites that have had terrible horror attached to them. And I will use Port Arthur as an example, the Broad Arrow Cafe. Now, I think it was 6 or 8 people died in the Broad Arrow Cafe. Many more were wounded. And aside from all the questions about why the fire escape door would be locked that day. Anyway. So the Broadacre Cafe was torn down after the investigation was finished with. All it is today is an open area, essentially an open walled room with a plaque of remembrance and a little water garden out the back, a remembrance area out the back. Now, they do this to remove, I guess, the voyeuristic intentions that some people have to come and see sites like that. And I think that's what's happening at the White House. I think they are removing all of the old access points. I think they are removing, not hiding evidence. We will eventually be told of what the evidence actually is, I'm sure. But when we are told, what they won't want people doing is coming to see it. They don't want to make the evil that was done there a tourist attraction. So they will wipe it clean and build a 1,000-seat ballroom over the top of it where people can be happy, have a good time. It might sound a bit basic, but I genuinely believe that's what they're doing. And they're not just doing it there. They're doing it all through Washington. Right? We've increasingly over the last 6 or 8 weeks, more and more and more mainstream media stories are coming into our existence about the tunnel systems under Washington and how far they extend. The Smithsonian tunnel system in the mall links all of the Smithsonian institutions. The White House has tunnel systems that link into tunnels, that link to all of those areas. There are tunnels from the FBI and the CIA leading to various other government agency offices inside Washington, D.C., and vice versa. I don't doubt that there is a need to maybe have a subterranean travel system to get people from place A to place B fast, and certainly a closed-loop rail system or a hyper-fast rail service. Well, that doesn't make much sense. In Washington, even on a relatively small underground system, you would be able to get from place A to place B very quickly. But what if you needed to go further afield? Well, there are apparently those sorts of tunnels as well, with maglev trains capable of crossing the United States in less than 3 hours. Now, will we ever see the proof of that? God, I hope I live long enough to. I really do. And I genuinely believe it happens. Same as I genuinely believe that all the hoo-ha that you're hearing about the Trump thing at the moment is more bullshit and more distraction than absolutely anything else. So just bear that in mind over the coming months as we go forward. Here is an interesting little document. Now, this is a document which, if you can read the top of it, says, "I certify I witnessed this being printed at the federal member, Matt Thistlethwaite's office at 14:18 hours on the 3rd of the 9th, 2014. And it's signed there by Gypsy, I'm gathering. I will read this to you. It is a letter from David Previtt, who is involved with the New South Wales Police. And, well, he's made some interesting observations. Having refreshed my knowledge of Article 2 of the Geneva Convention and taking into account the actions of the unelected government of 1975 in regards to the bloodless coup d'etat undertaken in Canberra on November 11, I am more aware of my role as an armed occupier of these lands. My position as an agent of the Crown is juxtaposed with my role as an armed occupier. Clearly, under the Geneva Convention, I am at war with my own government, the Crown, and myself. I patiently await the arrival of agents from a foreign land as they arrive to extradite me to an international court, possibly The Hague, where I may be held accountable for my actions. In the meantime, I will assume the status of hors de combat. As such, I can no longer engage in this futile battle with you, as entertaining as it's been, and I too invoke my rights as recognised by the Lieber Code of 1863 and Article 2 of the Geneva Convention of 1945 and its protocols. You are now barred from contacting me in any format. Thank you and good night. Now, that is a document that's 11 years old, but you can tell by the rather official stampings on it. And while I haven't got the actual physical document in my hand, can't tell you that it's 100% honest and real. It does bear up, and there is some cross-referencing that you can find available for it. So I haven't found a lot of that, and I am planning to keep going. But if, as that letter suggests, the police officer became aware of it, he clearly didn't give a shit. And that's exactly the kind of crap we face. And that's why a Kraken is needed. Sidney Powell put out a tweet. Well, the feds have just indicted the company Smartmatic. That would be the company whose lawsuit against me for defamation and seeking over $1 billion was filed in early 2021. That defamation action fell flat on its ass. Some smart-ass sent in, are we finally going to see the release of the freaking Kraken? And then General Flynn replies, Sydney is the Kraken. And I couldn't agree more. Sidney Powell, one of the most intelligent women, one of the most intelligent human beings in the world, is, well, I'm not sure that she's the only one now, but she was at the time the only senior lawyer in America capable of prosecuting both civil and criminal trials and military trials. She was capable of representing in military courts. And since Sydney said, release the Kraken, Gitmo's filled up. A lot of things have been happening. And I suggest that somewhere between her and I reckon Trey Gowdy, they could be the prosecution team. But there is a bit there surmising, I guess. So all we can do is hope that that we see a little bit more evidence of that in the near future. And I'm sorry, I'm not into the hopium side of things in any great way, shape, or form. But at least I think we need to acknowledge that Sidney Powell came out, made some very, very dramatic and large statements, and then disappeared completely off the scene. A lot of people were still talking about her, General Flynn amongst them, and talks about her a lot. But there are a lot of other well-connected folks in the US who have had interactions with her, and all of them say she is working deeply behind the scenes, doing the good that's going to save America and doing really, really good action. So fingers crossed that is, in fact, what is happening. If not, we all might have to go out and make a proclamation. This is a public proclamation for the return of the dead fiction and withdrawal of consent, effective from the 31st of October 2025. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. To all commonwealths of the world and to all people under Almighty God, Be it known and declared before heaven and earth that all men and women born under the natural and divine law of the Almighty, and heirs to the peace and justice of the Commonwealth, do hereby give notice of the withdrawal of all presumed consent to governance, registration, or legal constructs contrary to truth, conscience, and divine law. Let it be understood that lawful authority proceeds only from God and from the free will of man, and that any government, corporation, or tribunal presuming authority over the people without such consent stands in dishonor before both God and man. Therefore, effective on and from the 31st day of October in the year of our Lord 2025, the people of the Commonwealth, under Almighty God, collectively withdraw presumed consent to all unlawful contracts, registrations, and identifications made or imposed under the colour of law, fraud, or coercion. Notice of return of instruments of presumed consent. Let it further be known that the people of the Commonwealth under Almighty God shall peaceably and in good faith return all instruments and documents issued under colour of law, which signify presumed consent to corporate or foreign governance, including but not limited to driver's licence, vehicle registration plates, Medicare card, healthcare card, firearms licence, birth certificate, and any other document or instrument bearing a name rendering in full capital letters signifying a corporate or artificial entity. Such documents are acknowledged as tokens of presumption only, not of lawful or divine obligation. Their return is made without malice or rebellion, but in assertion of peace, truth, and freedom of conscience, that no man or woman shall be compelled to submit to any foreign or corporate jurisdiction contrary to the laws of God and the Crown in the right of the Commonwealth. By the authority of the people of the Commonwealth under Almighty God, issued and published on this, the 31st day of October in the year of our Lord 2025. Clearly, we are a couple of days short of that date, but this document has been prepared, and from what, I don't know who prepared it, that's trying to get to the bottom of that, but I am told that this document will be presented to every Commonwealth government in the world on the 31st of October. Now, does that mean that we all immediately race out and hand in our driver's license, our Medicare card, our license plates and everything else, our gun licenses? Can you imagine what would happen if you walked in and handed in your gun license? Well, you know what would happen. They'd turn up on your doorstep and take your guns that day. That day. And I don't know that that piece of paper that I just read you is going to stop them. So bear that in mind. But I brought that up tonight because I do see that as a very positive move forward. A very positive move forward. Even if you choose, at this point in time at least, not to hand back all your documentation, but to put the governments of the day on notice. I don't think there is too much better that we can do at the moment. Put them on notice, and that document will be very strong when a few other ducks line up. Let's put it that way, shall we? The last thing I wanted to talk about tonight is Albanese. He's usually the last thing I ever want to talk about because I frankly detest the man beyond all imagination. But something after his recent visit to Donald Trump's house piqued my interest. And it made me do a little bit of research on Albo that, really wasn't about his uncle / dad. It had a lot more to do with how tall is Anthony Albanese. From all accounts, Anthony Albanese is 5'8". 1.78 meters is his quoted height. That's a little under 5'8". This picture was taken with Albo and Trump strolling around the White House, Albanese asking, "Oh, well, is that where you land Marine One over there?" Do you notice the height? Donald Trump is 6'3". Well, at least the Donald Trump that was around in 1989 was 6'3". Byron Trump is closer to 6'9" or 7 foot, more like a giant. But Donald in this photo appears to be similar or even slightly shorter than Anthony Albanese. Things that make you go, Only there's so many things out there to see if you have eyes to see. I had this conversation with my mother today. I think I've mentioned here before that my family are not what you'd call very supportive of what I do. My daughter, I don't put in that basket, but Laura doesn't follow as closely as we do. She believes in some things and is pretty happy she didn't get the jab, but some of the other things we talk about, well, it's a bit far out for her too. But my mum, my sister, her family, it's a sad set of circumstances. And the conversation I had with my mum today was that I don't want to force my opinions or my ideas on people. And I don't bring them up in my family because I know it just causes them anxiety. Or my sister, who sometimes believes she can argue, likes to stand up and argue, and I'm afraid I don't mind to argue either at times. And you know what sibling arguments can be like. So we've had a couple of arguments. I don't, and I can't state this obviously enough or often enough. I don't expect people to believe what I say. I don't and would never dislike someone for not believing what I say. I don't ever say you must believe what I say. I often say, please go and do your own research. Now, my mum was married to a German for 67 years. Right? A bloke who was too young to fight during the Second World War, but was sent off to a private, well, not a private, but a boarding school away from the war zones, if you like. My uncle was in a U-boat, and on its first cruise in the Atlantic, it got sunk by the HMS Hood. He was one of 8 people that got out alive, and he spent the rest of the war in Canada. Where he wanted to migrate to at the end of the war, but he had to go back to Germany, which all of a sudden turned into East Germany, where he came from, and he was locked behind the wall until his death. Never got out again. I don't know quite why I'm telling you that part of my family history, but at the end of the day, I've done a lot of research into the Second World War. And I was talking to Mum today about it. And I said, I kind of wish Dad was still alive so that we could have these conversations. I could ask him questions. But at the end of the day, my dad would be 95 now, or 96. And I don't know that he'd want to remember it. I don't even know that he'd want to tell me about it. But the true history of the Second World War has been hidden from us because the victors write it. And I went to great lengths to explain that to my mother today, who was quite shocked at the end of it. And she said, how do you know all this? And I said, well, because I've been very fortunate. For the last 5 years, I have a family online who has supported me and allowed me to sit down and research and read and discover and cross-reference and dig, find evidence and proof. Now, I don't, for 1 second, I said to Mum, I don't for 1 second believe that everybody must believe what I say. But I do expect a modicum of respect for what I say, simply because I've done the research and they, in most cases, have not. I would urge you folks to do your own research. Don't rely on people like me to tell you how things are. We can give you the thread, like we have tonight. There is a link in the description to go and put in your submission as to why cash should be not restricted in any way, shape or form in this country. But I can't make you put that submission in. I know you're probably sitting there nodding your heads and saying, yeah, we'd love to do that. But you've got shit going on in your life. You're busy. It gets away. They design it that way. It's engineered. Our lives are pressured, stressed, anxiety-filled by design so that we don't have time to sit down and think about rationally and put together very well thought out arguments as to why the status quo shouldn't change regarding cash and other things. But I can't make you do it. Same as I can't make my sister understand what I do, or my mum. But I did make them understand just how badly it hurt Laura and I one Christmas when we watched Mum, Lisa, and her 2 kids put keys on their arm and laughed at the fact it was sticking to them. They didn't understand why we weren't laughing. And they still don't. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we've all had to come to terms with the fact that there are some people we can trigger. There are some people we can trigger that inquisitive bone. They will do their own research. They will then come over and listen to more of what we say and do a bit more research. And in 1, 2, or 10 years' time, they may well be one of us. But there are those who will never do that. There are those that will never believe what I tell them because I sit and talk to you on a computer on the internet. I'm not a newsreader delivering it to you from a recognized mainstream media newsroom. If I was, they might accept it a bit better, the authority of it. Whereas at the end of the day, any newsreader is simply reading a script that has been prepared for him. Now, in some cases, the newsreader prepares their own scripts, but mostly, particularly in the television world, they're prepared by somebody else. Anyway, do your own research. That's all I ask. And be tolerant of others that won't, can't. Just ignore them. It makes my heart sad when people are like that, when they can't be spoken to. But we can't jam this stuff down people's throats. It's just, there's too much. You would need a fire hose sized mouth. And I don't think people have got that because we are shoving a fire hose full of information down it. And it's all interlinked in the most devious, underhanded ways. And it's difficult to follow and track. It's not a conversation. And this is the other thing. Everybody who is against us these days thinks that we have to be able to supply an answer to them around why we feel the way we do in a sentence or in 3 minutes or 5 at the most. And if we haven't convinced them in 5 minutes, and I guarantee you not one of those people you're trying to convince will shut up for 5 minutes to let you finish, they will talk over you. They will start shooting you down from probably the second sentence you utter. So we need to evaluate those sorts of battles. Who can you educate? Who can't you? And for the ones that you can't educate, be polite. Smile and say, okay, you believe what you like. All good. But you can point to certain little evidences of, other truths that we've told that are now self-evident or with hindsight plainly evident. Like, when we first started telling you to go and buy some silver. Those of you that did paid probably $36 for it, an ounce. Those that didn't probably picked a little bit up between that price and, say, $50. But it's only after it hit $50 people really started to think, oh, God, Carl was right. Oh, there is something going on there. And they started buying a lot. Not just you guys, all around the world. And don't think for a moment that the buying spree has ended. While there is a bit of a lull at the moment, and just checking out the ainsleyBullion.com.au website at the moment, the ticker price is $75.65. I'm just going to refresh that. $75.80. So it's been sitting at 74.20, 74.30 most of the day. In the last, hour, it's gone up $1.10, $1.20 an ounce. That's in the last hour. Gold also bouncing back a little bit. There have been some market corrections in the gold and silver markets. They have tried very hard to suppress the demand for silver. It hasn't worked. And while they will keep trying to keep this price down, probably for this week and probably a good portion of next week, you are going to see these little incremental creeps going back up again. Somebody said to me today, they're trying to test the new $50 base. If they can push it back through $50, they'll be okay. There is no way in hell they're going to push the price of silver back below $50 an ounce anytime soon. And if perchance somehow they were able to, it wouldn't stay there. So bear that in mind. And while the price is low, buy. Doesn't matter how much, just get some, because whatever you get is going to be worth a lot more in the near to middle future than maybe any of us ever expected. All right, folks, I'm going to love you and leave. Oh, God, I'm talking over an hour again tonight. I'm sorry. I don't mean to keep you up, particularly in daylight savings time. So God love you, folks. Thank you for joining me again this evening. And if you would like to help us out, we do need a little bit of help. There's less than 60 tickets left in our lottery. So it'd be great if we could knock that off tonight. Vince and I will have a chat tomorrow, and it may well be gold up for grabs next time round. And we want to give you that $750. So please, if you can help us and the Good Samaritan Donkey Sanctuary, who are picking up 3 new mouths to feed, making 108 donkeys next week, I think we'll be on site. Then just head to merch.vofhq.com. And for $2, grab yourself a ticket. And good luck. We would love to give you the cash. We would love to give you the silver. This round we'll give you a Ainsley Byron Bob pack, 10 of those, an ounce of silver in one of our Voice of Freedom holders, which Vince is madly still printing. God love him. He's done nothing but make them. And I know we could probably just send them to China and get them made, get 150 or 200 of them made pretty quickly and sent back. But it goes against everything in my body to go sending money to China when we can do it here. It's just a bit slower because we've only got one printer and it takes a while to put it out. I think we're getting Silver Fox back onto the job. We're sending him a new roll of whatever the stuff is, plastic, and we'll be able to get some more out from there too, I hope. But delivering those is the biggest hassle I have at the moment, delivering your Byron Bobs. So I'm expecting a new delivery of holders middle of the week, next week, I think, and or maybe early next week. If Vince got to the mailbox today, it'll probably turn up on Tuesday next week. I will send the orders that I currently have and can fill straight away. And you should have them either hopefully by the end of next week or very early the week after. That's for those folks who want a Byron Bob pack. If you do want one, they're very easy to get. Just email me, carl@vofhq.com. They're a pretty cute little... do I have one floating around here somewhere? It might be a bit hard to get. It's a bit hard to reach. But you've seen them before. If you'd like one, email me, carl@vofhq.com. We will get it to you in the mail as soon as the holder turns up. Until tomorrow night, folks, when Darren Bergwerf will be joining us, we will have a good chat about what's happening on the 11th. And there will be a few other things that we'll bring up tomorrow night. Oh, one thing before I go. You've heard about Donald Trump's new Air Force One. They've just released some pictures of it. Have a look at bring Warren back with you.
Morning, Washington,
Gotta love AI, don't you? Be safe on the roads, folks. There's dickheads out there. Some of them are creating AI shit like that.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!